Good morning, Henry Oroh.
Good morning, Daniel. It's my pleasure to be on your show.
It's a pleasure to have you. Pleasure to have you. He's also the MD and CEO, if you didn't know already, of Zenith Bank Ghana. He's our guest this morning on your Super Morning Show. Sending your messages on Twitter and on Facebook. On Twitter, we are at Joy997FM. On Facebook, we are Joy 99.7 FM. Remember, your messages on social media are brought to you by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. Now, Roberts & Sons Optical Services is now open in East Legon in Bethel House on the Boundary Road adjacent Pearly Gate Event Gardens and not far from East Legon Police Station. Visit us at our ultra-modern East Legon branch for comprehensive eye care products and services for children and adults. We are open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Call us on 054-799-3647 or 050-151-9111 or 0302-222-601 for more information. Roberts & Sons Optical Services is now open in East Legon. Roberts & Sons, seeing is believing. So this morning we want to have a conversation around money. I love it when I have bankers in the studio because we can talk about money without any guilt. Yes. How do you make your money in this country? How are we structuring the country to keep our money safe? A lot has happened in the banking sector over the past 2 or so years. How have we recovered? Have we recovered at all? How are we positioned to move forward? How are we positioning this country so that young people can benefit from the economy? I was telling Raymond in the news review, we have the youngest population in our history, we have the most educated population in our history, and we have the most unemployed population in our history. It is one of the greatest paradoxes the world has seen. And it's not limited to Ghana, it's an African phenomenon. We are also heavily urbanized. And so people like Mr. Oroh sitting before me have the single responsibility of making sure that you play the role that you can in developing this thing that we have. And this morning, that's what our conversation is about. Your questions are welcome. 0244-340-437. That's the WhatsApp and Telegram number. Tweet at us. You can tweet at me at I am Daniel Daz. Use the hashtag Joy SMS so it appears here. Let me say good morning once again to Henry. Good morning.
Thank you, Daniel. Good morning again.
How are you doing this morning?
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. You have a beautiful show here, and I believe for us in Ghana, it's always a pleasure to wake up and listen to Daniel on the Joy FM Super Morning Show.
You're very kind.
So it's a great pleasure to be in your house today.
You're very kind. It's a pleasure to have you as well. How is the experience like for you being here? How's Ghana for you?
Ghana is a beautiful place with beautiful people. I've been here for over 7 years. And in the last 7 years, I've gone around Ghana, met practically various Ghanaians across the country. And what I see as a common denominator is the hospitality of the people, pleasant people. And I think it's a common feedback when people visit Ghana. And I think over the years, we have seen the benefits of that hospitality, where Ghana has become a destination for investors, and there's confidence in the economy, there's confidence in hospitality, there's confidence in the security of the country. And for me, it's been a great asset, a great culture, a great behavior from Ghanaians, and I think it's something we should sustain into the future.
Beautiful, beautiful. It's very refreshing hearing that from you. And you are someone who has experience in many parts of the world, both schooling and working. So for you, what's the unique, you've talked about what's common among Ghanaians, but what makes Ghana stand out from all these different places?
Some of these things are, I want to ascribe it to heritage. You know, let's not forget our heritage. Leadership, heritage are critical aspects of social development. I believe over the years we've had great leadership. Remember our great sage, Kwame Nkrumah, and his great philosophy of Pan-Africanism. I think he left a very strong bedrock, a strong social structure, and a strong infrastructure also, which Ghana has built over the years. And over the years, we've had leadership that has been pro-Ghana, Ghana, and that has developed a certain social system that has become a culture and a way of behavior among Ghanaians. And that culture is underpinned by hospitality, by decency, by mutual respect for people. That is common as you travel across the length and breadth of Ghana. And I think it's just the culture of the people. And it's a beautiful culture. It's a beautiful culture that I think the rest of Africa should copy and emulate.
Some people say that this hospitality is often misconstrued as a timidity.
I don't agree with that philosophy. It is said that you are not weak when you turn the other cheek. It's just that you are probably smarter, you are probably more intelligent, you are probably more knowledgeable. We can always be, the strength of a man is not in how much bullying, how much noise he makes. The strength of a lion is not measured by his roaring. A lion remains a lion, whether he roars or not. So your hospitality and friendship, I see it as strength rather than as weakness. And it's a very stupid person that sees humility, hospitality as a weakness. And the strength in that character is beginning to unveil, if you ask me, in the recent years, given the level of growth, the level of economic development, and the level of infrastructure improvement, and even the level of foreign direct investment that is coming to Ghana. You see, this is not happening for nothing. It is happening because of that environment that is very conducive, and it's all part of the behavior of the people. So it's strength, as far as I'm concerned, in my own opinion, that Ghanaians have that kind of behavior.
And opinion, the development you talk about is the financial sector. And we saw what happened with the banking sector starting somewhere August 2017. But really, started around 2012 into 2013, isn't it?
Well, the development of the banking sector and the changes that happened in the last few months and few years, really, it started a long time ago, The previous government, the previous leadership of the central bank, these are things that they had in the pipeline, and it was always on the table. But we must give praise and credence to the current leadership and the leadership of Dr. Addison of the central bank, the governor of the central bank, and the government of the current government for taking that bold step of bringing about those consolidation and recapitalization that we have seen in the banking system in the last few months. For me, it was a long time coming, and for me, it's a beautiful thing that happened to our financial system. It's something that had happened in Nigeria in 2005. When it happened, it was initially visited with criticism, but when we look back, we see the powerful benefits that the economy of Nigeria has benefited from mega banks that we have in Nigeria today. So when I think in the last 2 years, the central bank governor under Dr. Addison unveiled the plan to recapitalize and brought out the guidelines. Like in the case of Nigeria, there were initial criticisms and all that, and still some, but I believe it's something that is good for the economy, it's good for financial stability, it's good for confidence in the public, on the part of the public in terms of what is happening in the banking sector. So overall, it's something that the entire economy will benefit from, and it's something Ghana in itself will benefit from.
How are we going to benefit from it?
Well, what has consolidation done? It has raised the capital of banks from 120 million Ghana cedi, which was the old capital, and it's now 400 million Ghana cedi. And banks are supposed to comply with that up to December 2018. And you are supposed to comply either by raising capital by yourself or by going to M&As, mergers and acquisition. The essence of consolidation or the capitalization requirement is to create mega banks. We had about 35 banks before now, and 35 banks with very little capital. What it means is that these banks, in their small way, will be unable to do the very big ticket transactions. And where there are shocks, systemic shocks, those banks may not be able to stand given their low capital. So what recapitalization has done is to create big banks that can do big ticket transactions. And recapitalization also has introduced strength to banks and has given the banks the capacity to create money. Money is created by lending. Banks create money when they lend. If you bring 100 cedis to the bank keeps 10 cedis as a regulatory requirement, as a reserves. It probably lends 90 cedis. When you lend 90 cedis, you have created money. You have given somebody the capacity to trade, to invest, to do something, and that chain continues. So the activity and the capacity for banks to create money is also expanded by expanding the capital base of banks. And don't forget, following the recap, there were also the Specialized Deposit Taking Institutions Act 2016, the popular Act 930. And on the back of that legal framework, we saw the Bank of Ghana release various directives, which included the Governor's Directive, which more or less sets a framework for the banks to operate. What did the Bank of Ghana intend to achieve through the Governor's Directive? We find that the failure and the banking crisis we had here in Ghana, even in Nigeria, generally crisis in the banking system is propelled by poor governance. And the Bank of Ghana, through a governor, introduced the various directives, principally the Governor's Directive, which is saying that, for banks, you must embrace sound governance practices that will keep the banks operating in a sustainable way into the future. And that is key for banking stability. The Governor's Directive also intended to promote public confidence in what is happening in the banking sector. The Banking Directive also intended to protect the interests of depositors. Banking is a business that is carried out principally by money from other people's money, so to say. So we must protect that interest. So the Corporate Governance Directives was put in place to create a sound financial system, a sound and stable banking system, a banking system that has the confidence of the public and the confidence of the people. And this all came from the consolidation that happened. So it's a beautiful thing. Now we have about 23 banks that are sound, that are well capitalized, that can do a lot of business, and that can create money. And that is key for economic development.
Okay.
All right?
So it's 29 minutes to the top of the hour. If you just tuned in, you're hearing the voice of Henry Oroh. He is the Managing Director for Zenith Bank, MD and CEO of Zenith Bank, Ghana. Beautiful. So Mr. Henry Oroh is our guest this morning on the Super Morning Show. Keep your comments coming in on 0244-340-437. So, Mr. Oroh, you mentioned how we need stronger banks to do bigger ticket transactions. We've heard that refrain a number of times. However, 92% of businesses in Ghana are small businesses. They are your more-collar businesses. They are your businesses that don't really qualify to do big ticket transactions. How are we helping them?
Well, when we say bigger banks promote bigger ticket transactions, it is just a reference to the capacity that big banks give to the economy. In the same way that the banks support and give capacity to big businesses, it's the same measure that you give businesses support and capacity to the small businesses. We agree that the small and medium scale businesses account for about over 80% of our GDP. So it's a fundamental part of the economy. And the benefit that accrues to the conglomerates, the corporates, the big ticket, the same benefits that trickle down to the small and medium scale enterprises. Don't forget, even before the consolidation, because the big companies have capacity to attract money, their needs were practically always met before now. It is usually the needs of the small scale that banks run away from. Now banks have moved their capital from 120 million Ghana cedi to 400 million Ghana cedi. They've got to invest that extra capital in the marketplace to make returns to shareholders. The investors, the equity holders, they require some level of return for their investment. The big tickets, there's a limit to what they can absorb. So banks now will be pushed. They have to be pushed to invest and look more into the small and medium scale enterprises. That is where the banks have not done sufficiently enough in the past. But going forward, given the higher capital, the banks have to be very creative to secure their risk management systems, and in the presence of managing their risk, they have to lend more to the small and medium scale enterprises. Otherwise, they will have problems with justifying the increase in capital to shareholders, because their returns will also go down if they don't lend. Banking is about lending, and we must lend to the small and medium scale enterprises if we must grow our returns.
Right, so if you're a small and medium scale enterprise owner and you're listening, the Zenith Bank CEO says he wants to lend. So please go to Zenith Bank tomorrow and go and talk to them. They'll find you some money. It's 24 minutes to the top of the hour. Henry Oroh is our guest here. He's MD and CEO of Zenith Bank Ghana. What we want to understand is that what happened in the past? You said that banks have not been lending to small businesses in the past. What happened? Why?
Well, for me, banking, we are in the business of lending, doing business while managing our risks. But no bank, no rational person want to lend into a sector where the rate of default is very high. We know that at the lower level, the rate of default is extremely very high. So that, for me, was a very good reason why a lot of banks shied away from the small and medium scale enterprises. But it's a different ballgame now. Like I said, with banks increasing their capital almost by 3, from 120 to 400, beyond 3 really, 300%, they have excess capital they must trade with, number one. Number two, the governors in the banking, the directives, the capital requirement directive and the various governance directives that have been introduced by the Bank of Ghana has also in a way reinforced the risk management system for these banks through a legal framework. And banks are also required to create internally robust risk management system. So I believe the banks are stronger, they are wiser, they've learned from the past, they've reinforced their risk management, and they are more prepared now to look into a little more risky, lower market. They are more prepared. They've been, through the regulations and through internal reinforcement of processes, the banks are more prepared to look downward. And like I said, it's been made a little more necessary by the expansion of capital that we have today.
Okay, so when you say we are learning from the past, what have we learned? Governance
is very, very important. We've had situations where a few banks did not go through the credit process properly because of probably insider dealings. I know this person, I know that person, which are poor governance practices. That is the key reason why banks failed, why we had very high NPLs in the marketplace. One of the reasons. So,
you mean non-performing loans?
And the non-performing loans. Mm-hmm. Now, banks have, given the failure we've had from other banks, I believe it is said that when somebody's house is on fire, it is time for you to fetch water to put out the fire in your own. Mm-hmm. You don't wait to have fall into the same pit that others fell into. So we believe the surviving banks today have learned from the weakness in the risk management structure of banks that failed. And that lesson is something that they can embrace and work on to expand their lending activity without putting their funds at risk. Once you go to the kitchen, you must also be prepared to face the heat. Mm-hmm. We are not saying that the lending will not be accompanied with some risk or some failures. But I believe the degree of failure will reduce going forward because of the high level of awareness of banks and the higher risk management processes that have been put in place by banks. And we're also talking to our customers about the need for them to treat bank funds as not their own. Sometimes ignorance is critical in all this matter, especially at the lower level, because at the level of ignorance. They think they take funds from banks, loan from banks, they treat it like their money. When it's time to pay, they have problems. So increasing education, and we are creating seminars, we are having meetings with the SMEs, we're educating them about the need to keep to corporate governance within the corporates, and also the need to adhere to, the principles of paying back. That principle is very important.
So in your view, when you say poor risk management structure, which is being changed, would you say it's an internal affair from the banks themselves, or the regulator also had some feelings?
Well, it's both sides. Like I said, the Capital Requirement Directive, we have the Basel II, which is being implemented right now, Basel II and 3, and these are all global and best practices. The Basel Accord is a risk management and capital management accord, which the central bank in Ghana has embraced and has been pushed forward to the banking. Today all banks in Ghana have to comply with the Basel II Accord. What does it do? What does it tell us? We must adhere to best risk management practices. So it is enforced by law, by regulation, and it's also enforced by internal improvements, internal processes. So apart from what the central bank does to promote the banks, to encourage the banks to embrace risk management practices, internally, banks also work to reinforce their risk management processes. So it's both. It's internal and it's also induced by external regulations.
It's 20 minutes to the top of the hour here on your Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. I am Daniel Dazi here in the studio with Zenith Bank MD and CEO. It's Zenith Bank Ghana MD and CEO, Henry Oroh. Ken Thompson said the majority of these banks are kaput due to the pure and unadulterated greed and recklessness of their shareholders and directors. Too strong or just right?
Well, I think it's more or less very, very correct. And like I said, that is why we are very glad about the introduction of the Corporate Governance Directive. And because the Corporate Governance Directive starts from the Board of Directors. Their roles, their responsibilities, their fiduciary responsibilities, and because over time, you see the directors tend to influence management and induce management to take decisions which ordinarily management would not have taken. So the corporate governance has addressed that part significantly. You see, societies are ruled by law, and when you breach those laws, there are repercussions. So the governance directive is very key to address that, where a director or group of directors are seen to breach their duties. There are repercussions in this directive, and I believe going forward there will be less intervention or negative intervention of board members on the activities of management. So I agree with that statement that recklessness and
unadulterated greed
on the part of board is probably a part of the reason why we had crisis in the banking sector, because the board was overbearing on management and probably directed management on taking loans and risk, which ordinarily they would not have. But I believe, like I said, the governance requirements today and the repercussions that follow its breach will curtail significantly these similar activities going forward.
Right. So let me go to another part of, since you mentioned this, the conversation has not just been around the greed of directors per se. People are saying that investors generally, people who take their monies to banks also, they don't do it from a more informed position, and so they chase returns, and they chase these huge promises, and so they end up in trouble themselves.
Well, that is a different discussion entirely. Yes, we had that over the last years, where, don't forget the issue of the gold trade, the gold.
You mean men's gold?
Men's gold and all that. People were putting their monies, and they expected to earn 10% monthly, and they never questioned the rationale. Where's all these returns coming from? And it's all bordered on greed and all that. So that part of our social problem is still there, where people want to maximize returns, sometimes unreasonable returns, and they probably pressure the banks to give unreasonable interest payments on some of those deposits. But it's something that the banks must, in a way, resist. I think even the system itself will resist it, because if you're going to pay such high returns to depositors, you're going to have problems profitably offloading those monies into credible outlets.
Okay.
In that sense, your margins will be very low. If you're going to take money at 16% and you're going to lend at 18-19%, which most companies are asking for today, you're going to be making like 1 or 2% gross margin.
Okay.
on your assets, and that is in itself a recipe to failure by the banks. So banks should come together, and again, the payment of high interest rate is also countering the essence of government monetary policy. Recapitalization, high capital, and our government is pursuing a monetary policy that should bring interest rate down over time.
Okay.
That is why the reference rate has not gone up in
the Ghana reference rate?
Ghana reference rate in the last 3-4 times, because the government has a deliberate policy to keep it stable and probably take it downward to support low interest rate regime, which is good for the real sector. Now, any activity by any depositor to push that rate upward, probably will countering the direction that the government wants to follow. So the banks must come together to resist unnecessary hiking prices or rates. And not only the banks, even the public utilities, the public companies.
Okay.
Like, we have a lot of
publicly listed companies that sell their shares.
Companies that government parastatals, some of them won't ask for higher rates than they should.
Really?
So we all must come together to say, hey, what is the direction that the government wants? What do I do to also promote that direction? And we should not ask for honestly high rates, because it will defeat that agenda by government.
If I'm to understand what you're saying that when I bring my money to a financial institution like yours, I shouldn't demand a rate of return on my investment which is too high, else the interest rates when you're loaning it out will be high.
Definitely, that's it. If the interest rate is high, the lending rate goes up.
Okay.
Because banking, like I said, 80% of our trading funds are from deposits. So if I take money at 16%, I'm not going to lend at 16%.
No, you add some.
I have to have a margin. The net revenue from funds, it has to be something significant to so
that you can run your business.
To run the business, take the cost and all that. Yeah. So if that margin is very slim, you run at a loss.
Okay.
So the banks, for that reason, should resist taking honestly high rates.
Which is what happened in some of these institutions you mentioned a few months to years ago, where they were taking deposits at very, very high rates. And so
they didn't have a good outlet. And because
what does that mean when you say they didn't have a good outlet?
Which we take a deposit at 16%, 17%. Very few people are going to take money from you
as a loan.
25%.
Okay.
Are you following me? Very good, credible companies will borrow from you at 25% in today's terms, because they want to also reduce their cost. And the good companies, they drive rates. They drive the rates they borrow because they have capacity to repay. So very few people, very few good companies will take money from you or borrow from you at above 20%.
Okay.
Today.
Okay.
So if you take a lot of money at 16% and you have to keep your margins, you have to look for those sources that are willing to take those loans at 30%.
So that
And
you
those
can keep your
and
company
those
running.
high risk takers are those who usually default. Because what businesses will they be doing to pay your interest of 30% per annum? It's just a matter of time they will default.
Do you think they found any of these businesses in the first place? People who are paying out 120% in a year.
Those businesses were not there, but the banks, because they were under pressure to render a certain return, knowingly or unknowingly put their money in such risky ventures. I think that's part of the problem we had in the last few years.
We had banks investing in some of these.
I mean, when you go through the report of the failures we had, you find that there were banks that put money in some of these extremely risky and questionable outlets, and the result was that some of those monies were not recovered, and it impaired their capital, and over time, that systemic failure occurred.
Why couldn't they find? You see, you have said that depositors gave them pressure because depositors wanted higher rates, higher return rates. But why can't you just be honest with me as a customer and say, look, I can't give you those rates?
As a bank?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is from the deposit side.
Yes.
You bring your money, and
Yes.
I tell you I can't take.
I can't give you because that's what you were saying, that depositors demand a higher rate, and so some banks are pushed to
Don't forget, we had 35 banks. Today we have 23 banks. Today that activity is still going on. But the top banks, the well-run banks, if you come to a Zenith Bank with, I say I want to give you money at 17%, chances are that I will turn the money down.
Okay.
Because a lot of my borrowers will want to borrow at 18%.
Okay.
Some at 70%, some at 90%. And because of our internal risk management, our culture and our target market, we don't want to lend, and also in compliance with government's agenda to drive risk down. Zenith Bank will not want to lend, say, at 25, 26%. So if you bring monies at high rates, I will turn it down. But when you turn those monies down, somebody is ready and willing to take that money in the previous regime, because that person is probably looking at some other outlets which Zenith will be unwilling to take a risk on.
Okay.
So that arbitrage will always be there in every market. But the difference is there are repercussions for everything. If you take a very risky ventures, you have to be ready to be prepared for the outcome of that risk you are taking.
Which has happened.
Which happens, and we pray it doesn't happen soon again.
Okay.
But we can always know that history repeats itself.
8 minutes to the top of the hour here on your Super Morning Show. Enjoy 99.7 FM. My name is Daniel Daze. We are here in the studio with Henry Oroh. Henry is the MD and CEO of Zenith Bank Ghana. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
So you wanted that weave, that one that's so long it touches your toes. Got it. A disco light for the room when the sweetheart comes over. Swoon your matrona. Bagged it. Those chrome spinning wheels that will have people at church praying to be you. But though, now how about those mega woofers that will wake up the whole neighborhood? Ordered. Because you've got the card that makes it all possible.
You don't need a bank account to spoil yourself. You can now securely load funds for travel, pay for goods and services online and at your favorite shop, or give your loved ones unending spending options or possibilities with a perfect gift card. Get a Cowbank prepaid card now, because you can.
Cowbank, forward together.
Scratch up. Win 'em. Scratch up. Win 'em.
Today be
Scratch
today.
up.
Malcolm turned 30 years for
Scratch
Ghana.
up.
So they splash plenty 30 things.
Plenty 30?
Every 100 Ghana you spend for Malcolm fee win 300 things.
300.
TV,
30.
fridge,
30.
motorcycle.
30.
You feel winner win Renault car.
30.
Malcolm Big
Win 'em.
30.
Scratch up. Win 'em. Scratch up. Win 'em. Get a scratch card for every 100 cedis spent at any Malcolm shop across the country. Follow the instructions to win an amazing Malcolm Big 30 prize every week. Malcolm Big 30 Scratch and Win 'em starts from 1st July until 31st August 2019.
I go win today for Tamale, make my sister win for Kumasi, then Sansu again can win more for Accra. Today be today.
Scratch up. Win 'em. Keep your winning scratch card. Samsung, platinum sponsor of Malcolm Big 30. Terms and conditions apply. Scratch up. Win 'em.
No one likes the siren of the ambulance, but once in a while, there is a moment in our lives where we need help and pray silently for an angel. That is why the Call Angels came into being to provide 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, round-the-clock ambulance cover for medical emergencies, domestic accidents, road traffic accidents, non-emergency transfers, and any medical condition where professional hand is needed to get a patient to the hospital. Download the Call Angels app for free from Google or Apple Store. You can also register for value-added services by calling 18026 or star 3330 or 0302-909746. For as little as 100 Ghana cedi, you can guarantee you and your family for up to 5 persons priority response in addition to a 30% discount on fares for your transport request. Sign up and get that peace of mind for you and your family. Call the Angels in that critical moment and we will be there. Kindly note that this service is currently available in the Greater Accra region only.
Coffee in your cup and joy on the set. The Super Morning Show is always the best bet on Joy 99.7 FM.
Special delivery. Let go. Get him. Yeganya fu kama koba madoza na funeka afina poga na kwafuna jadanjo kuchu amadoji kuchu ye don't have busu yes no no de jadonyi cho over happy wa chagbala we yana huwa do kaka fike de fiko gala waka ao no wa club to go get up hustle for the money unfair when you're done everybody jumping on your lane one take a look at me to what you having on them name sing some praises all in your name. For my top, hip hip hooray! I love what for trust who for payday. Nagamala, she will know what you did. Then I put you up a plane on the runway. I did. Don't get it. Okay, tell him. On you went, yeah. On you went to when you're here. Sikaye moja, sana sikaye moja. Ebusia papa wa samo fisikaya. Come chop. Ebusia papa wa samo fisikaya. Muniere sa sembe busima. Osikanya na waken, bosinebo. Osikanyi nyifia. Muniere mma wakanyide. One can add them. Adam no Osikanti. Go manu duko. Sana sikaye moja. Sana sikaye moja. Get him, Ninga Gato, Kogada Pakama, Na wukavona na jekro de yakama aga kudi shika kwachala Jean the president no call tada. Nega mala shi wakabu tada. Money makes you do fly things tada. Nama the dream no mahino.
2 minutes to the top of the hour. This is the Super Morning Show in Joy 99.7 FM. Henry Oroh is here. He's MD, CEO of Zenith Bank, Ghana. I'm receiving messages from staff of Zenith Bank who are very excited to hear their CEO on air. He'll have a message for you before he leaves finally. Let's talk about Zenith now as an organization and how the bank is doing. What's the story and what's the vision really behind Zenith Bank?
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Zenith Bank has been in Ghana for the last 14 years. We are 14 years this year in Ghana. And when we look back, it's been a very successful story from a new bank to one of the biggest banks in Ghana today in terms of profitability and balance sheet size. And in terms of the brand, this is a brand that has that is now in the household of Ghanaians. And the feedback we have over the last 14 years is that this bank has done well, and that feedback comes from our customers because they keep coming back to us. That feedback also comes from rating agencies where, like you know, every year Zenith Bank comes home with several credible awards from international rating agencies, best bank this, best bank that, and it comes in their very great numbers over the years. But our greatest joy is to see that our customers are very happy with what we are doing, and that's because of the quality and level of customer service delivery. You know, it's all in a brand. You know, once we set out 14 years ago to do business in Ghana, we set out with a brand strategy, and our mission statement is to be a reference point in the provision of prompt, innovative banking products and services in Ghana, a reference point. And we look back over the 14 years, I dare say we have lived up to that dream and up to that vision. And our vision statement is to invest in the best people, the best environment, and the best technology to underscore the delivery of this exceptional service. And that is why in Zenith we have some of the best people in Ghana in terms of banking. People who are motivated, who are committed, who are inspired to do their work in the best possible way. And every time we try to inspire these people by the messaging, by the direct motivation in terms of welfare. And we create a very good environment. You come to Independence Avenue, some of the best architecture you find on that street is the Zenith Bank building. Mm-hmm. It underscores our commitment to provide the right environment, not only the physical environment, even the soft environment. If you come to Zenith premises, you're going to see in a culture of warmth and a culture of happiness, a people who are inspired. And that translates into how that service, our service, is delivered to the customer. And and we are also life givers. Zenith Bank, we are life givers. I'm a life giver. We have that spirit of giving life to businesses. We give life to people who come to do business with Zenith Bank, our stakeholders. We just give life, and that's been the story where we have a quantum growth year in, year out over the last 14 years, and that has taken us to where we are today.
Congratulations on the journey so far.
Thank you.
Sounds like a very inspiring one.
Thank you.
As an individual, and I see that you've picked up a few of those awards yourself. Banking CEO of the Year 2019, International Finance Magazine, International Business Magazine, the same thing, and also by the CEO Monthly Magazine. Congratulations on those honors.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you.
What inspires you personally, and how does that tie into the Zenith story?
Well, I think it's just the need for excellence. What drives us is right inside us. I spoke about your heritage initially. You look back, who are you? Where did you come from? A lot of us came from extremely very humble background, in terms of financial resources. And because there was a need, because of though very humble, we came from a background also that inculcated in us the right character, So the right character from beginning, the character of hard work, altruism, the character of commitment, passion, the character of is aspiring to be anything you want to be, values, good values. And that is what we got from our parents, and I believe my father is listening to me right now, and I'm extremely very proud about those values that he inculcated in us as we grew up, and those values, created excellence. Even as we went into the corporate world, those values remained of excellence. When you do your things in an excellent way, you grow to the top and you stay there. We are told in Daniel that he said the king preferred Daniel to the others because an excellent spirit was inside him. It is that excellent spirit that sets you apart. So it's that excellent spirit that I have, and the management, the senior management of Zenith has, every staff of Zenith has. So it is that excellence that is propelling us, and it's about the right values, the right character, the right virtues, and those are the things that have driven us to the top, and we believe will take us even further.
So what's next?
They say the room for improvement is the largest room you can have, and for us, it's always setting new goals, setting very ambitious goals, and we have set a goal for ourselves that in the next few years we want to be number one, clearly in all terms. And we took the inspiration from JF Kennedy. This month we're celebrating 50 years of Apollo 11, right?
Today, actually.
Today we're celebrating 50 years and all that. But that came in a dream by certain John F. Kennedy in 1962, when he says, in this decade, we choose to be in the moon. And that at a time when going to the moon was unbelievable. But he said we choose to go to the moon not because it is easy, but because it is hard, it is difficult. He said we choose to go to the moon because this challenge will bring the best energies and the best skills in our people. He said this is a challenge we are willing to accept. This is a challenge we are unwilling to postpone, and this is a challenge we intend to win. And in 8 years, they went to the moon, and today they are talking about something. It's about dreaming. Everything you achieve starts with a good dream. The future belongs to those who dare to dream and have the courage to pursue their dreams. Those are the words of Mohammed bin Rashid, the ruler of Dubai, and how they converted desert Dubai, into the world, hub for commerce and tourism. Is unbelievable. So for us at Zenith, we always want to aspire, and a common cliche in Zenith, and everybody knows it, that when you aspire to perspire, the universe will conspire in your favor. And that is something that drives all of us, and that's a cliche that, more than a cliche, philosophy that we're trying to use to build Zenith into the next level.
If you aspire to perspire, the universe will conspire in your favor. I'm saying it tomorrow morning. Most definitely. Thank you very much, Mr. Henry Oroh, for joining us. It's been an inspiring morning, really. And all the best to you.
Thank you.
In the next stage. I hope it doesn't take you 8 years to get to the moon like it did JFK and his team.
Well, thank you, Daniel. It took 8 years to get to the moon, but it can take 8 days to do a lot of things. So we truly hope that we achieve our aspirations in a very short time. And we'd like to thank our customers, our friends, our shareholders, our staff
who are listening
to me. They are all very, in fact, you see, once you do well as a leader, or you stand very high as a leader, because you are standing on the shoulders of people. And my staff are the people that really propel this performance. And I'm eternally grateful to them for their support. I'm grateful to our customers. The customer is the most important person in our premises, we always say. He's not a visitor to our premises, he's part of it. He's not an interruption to our work, he's the reason for the work. We're not doing him a favor by serving him. In fact, he's doing us a favor by giving us the opportunity to do so. So we are grateful for our customers for coming back again and again, and for being good advocates for the bank and the brand.
Thank you very much, and condolences on the recent loss that you suffered.
Thank you.
Very unfortunate.
Thank you so very much.
Okay, so that's Henry Oroh. He is the MD and CEO of Zenith Bank.
Money makes you do fly things.
Bringing us to 8 minutes past 9 on your Super Morning Show. We are going to Lekma. We are going to visit the Lekma Road very shortly.